Today I'm going to show you how I fixed my nose grind using Paul Rodriguez's frontside nose grind technique. So here's me on day one struggling to nose grind, and then here's me on day three finally getting a make and rolling away. Paul Rodriguez is a ledge skating legend. Not many do it better than Paul Rodriguez, so I figured he was the perfect person to study to learn how to do frontside nose grinds. So in studying Paul Rodriguez, I identified 11 techniques that he does every single time he does a frontside nose grind. So for this YouTube video, I'm gonna keep it straight to the point. We're gonna cover the 3 biggest keys, but if you do wanna go super in depth, I will have a full video on Patreon with all 11 techniques that I noticed P-Rod doing every single front nose grind. If you wanna check that out, I'll put a link to a free trial to Patreon if you wanna go ahead and check that out. Let's get into Paul Rodriguez's frontside nose grind technique. So number one, I noticed that Paul Rodriguez hangs his toes off of his board a little bit. I personally don't like to put a lot of my foot on the board for ollies, but the reason why I thought this technique was important was because it looks like Paul Rodriguez, by hanging his toes off the board, is able to hook his board and pull it slightly frontside into that nose grind position. So just like you kind of hang your toes a little bit when you're doing like a frontside 180, by putting more of his foot on the board, it gives him more control turning the board frontside, which helps him to aim the trucks onto the corner of the ledge every time. I don't know about you guys, but I find myself just on front 50s sometimes my front truck will miss the lock on a front 50, and that's the last thing you want to be doing on a frontside nose grind, is missing your front truck, because if the top of the ledge is waxed, you're gonna slip out and you could take a hard slam. So P-Rod hangs his toes a little bit to ensure that he gets really good grip on the nose of his board and is able to aim that front truck right into the correct position every single time. Okay, so technique number 2 that I noticed Paul doing was how he lifts his back foot higher and gets his feet into that nose grind position before he ever puts any weight onto the nose grind. I think the reason that he does this is it allows him to do less work. By P-Rod getting into the nose grind position before he puts his weight down, all he has to do from there is just not move until the end of the ledge. I believe this is what makes P-Rod so good at actually balancing his nose grinds, is because he's doing so much of the work up front and then he just has to sit there and pretty much do nothing. Okay, now the third and final technique that I noticed was how Paul Rodriguez gets weightless right at the end of the ledge. Right as he's about to pop off, you notice how his weight goes up and creates space and time for the board to actually clear the end of the ledge before he stomps the board down and rides away. With crooked grinds and nose slides, you're able to kind of like pop off the side of the ledge pretty easy, but with a nose grind, it's way harder to do that, and your best bet is to ride off the end of the ledge. But in order to do that, you've got to figure out the timing of what Paul Rodriguez is doing. Is he's getting into the nose grind, staying low, and then at the end of the nose grind, you watch him kind of like shift his body weight up to take pressure off of the board, so that way the board can actually clear the end of the ledge and he can actually roll away. So just to sum it up, the 3 techniques that we're talking about in this video are: 1, hanging your toes a little bit so you can hook the board into the front side nose grind position; 2, lifting your back leg up and getting that nose grind position before you put weight down on the ledge; and then 3, getting your body weightless right before the end of the ledge so that you can clear the board and roll away. So now let's see how these techniques actually worked for me as I tried to learn nose grinds. So the first thing I did on day 1 was practice doing 50-50s using that P-Rod foot position of putting more of my foot onto the board to help me grip the board better and aim my front truck onto the corner of the ledge. So I sat there for a good long while doing a bunch of 50-50s and making sure that I could consistently get my front truck on the ledge, because the last thing I wanted was to miss the lock and slip out and take a slam. The next thing that I did was I practiced the third technique of getting weightless at the end of the ledge. So what I did was I ollied up into a 50-50, and then at the end of the ledge, I tried to do a little like nollie pop off. So not only was this continuing practicing hooking the board and getting my trucks locked in properly, but now in order to pop off nollie, I've got to have my weight a little bit more towards the nose to do that. So it's one step closer to being in that nose grind position, as well as getting the practice of getting weightless right before the end of the ledge and practicing that timing. Next, I practiced the second technique of getting that back leg up and getting into the nose grind position before you make contact. It might seem stupid, but I started by practicing this just on flat ground. And I even discovered that if you roll at it with a little bit of speed and try and ollie into that nose grind position, it's good practice to try and feel what the weight distribution needs to be like so that you can be in contact with the ground and still like slide it a little bit without sticking. This is definitely something that I think I need to do more of in the future. It's just on flat ground with a little bit of speed, practicing almost doing a nose manual and scraping. I feel like that gave me a good sense of what it would actually feel like to be on top of the ledge moving in that position. Next, I repeated the process on the tiny ledge at the skate park. This helped me practice hooking the board and actually aiming the front truck onto the corner of the ledge, as well as getting that back foot up and starting to feel what it would be like to be locked in into that nose grind moving across the ledge. As I got more comfortable, I slowly started to add speed so that I could try and come off the end of the curb. So now it's combining all three techniques of hanging the toes to help me aim that front truck, getting that back foot up, and then combining that into popping out off the end of the curb. Again, it may seem silly that I'm doing this on a curb, but it's helping me like train my mind to do the fundamentals in a very low risk situation. It took me a minute to figure out the timing, but what really helped me was thinking of it as if I was just getting into a nose grind and then immediately trying to nollie out. Thinking of it like that helped me avoid setting my back truck down into a 50-50, because in my head I told myself, as soon as you get into that nose grind, you've got to start popping the nollie. So it helped me skip the step of putting my back foot down. And then I was able to start feeling what it's like to sit in that nose grind. And after I got a few, it really started clicking. I started doing some consecutively. And then by the end of the session, I did this one where I held it just like a little bit longer than I did on all the rest and got a clean pop out. But at this point, unfortunately, I ran out of time and I had to call it quits for day one. So next, on day two, when I got to the skate park, I had it in my head that I could just pick up right where I left off the day before. So I didn't go through all the little practice steps and building up the technical fundamentals of like working on those 3 P-rod techniques that I talked about. I just thought, like, I did like 20 yesterday, I should be able to figure this out, and I feel like that was a big mistake. At the end of the day, I probably lost more time just trying to rush in and almost skip steps than I would have had I just taken my time, gone through all the steps, and really got the feeling for the technique and then actually worked on the nose grind. So because it took so much time on the curb, I didn't have much time to actually try it on the ledge. I was able to get some that were fairly close, but I really did not have a feeling for the trick. I was mainly just trying to force it to try and get this video done, but it's nearly impossible to cheat skateboarding. So that brings us to day 3. So day 3, I switched up my approach and I took a lot longer practicing the fundamentals so that when I went to try the actual trick, I could land it as quickly as possible. So to start out, I practiced popping into the nose grind, but this time instead of going to the curb, I went to the ledge that I was actually trying to land the trick on. Because I knew in my head that I could do it on the curb, but that wasn't necessarily translating to the ledge. So I wanted to rewire my brain to figure out how to do this trick on something that's a little bit taller. Eventually I started to find a rhythm popping into the ledge, and I even found out that I could kind of like pop out to the side, which was really satisfying because it allowed me to be stationary, pop into a nose grind, hold it, and then pop out and land. Feel like I like completed the trick to give me that confidence that, all right, I know how to get in, hold it, and get out. So in my head from there, it was just a matter of adding speed. Then to try and build my confidence even further, I went back to the curb to do a few actual nose grinds moving. But I think this was low-key kind of a mistake because, like I said, the height difference between the curb and what I was actually trying to do it on were so high that I just feel like I would have been better off spending that time working on popping in and doing the fundamentals and really creating a rhythm on the actual ledge than doing a nose grind on something that didn't really carry over quite as well. But after I did a handful of nose grinds on the little curb, I then went over to the ledge and slowly started grinding it a little bit. Not actually trying to come off the end, but just popping in, getting into the nose grind position and trying to feel it out, what it was gonna be like to sit on top of that height of ledge in a nose grind position. My homie Takoi was at the park, and I bet him $1 if I could get it in 10 tries or less. Unfortunately, at the end of 10 tries, I was paying him $1. But if you ask anybody that I skate with regularly, they'll tell you this is something I do pretty often to try and get myself in battle mode, to get my brain kind of like in the fight, rather than just like feeling something out, to really like go for it and commit and put my body in the ballpark to be able to actually land the trick. So after the 10 tries were up, I said, let's go double or nothing. And in the second set of 10 tries, I started to get really close, but still in the end, I ended up having to pay my homie Takoi $2, but not too many tries after that. I think it was less than 10 tries after that. I started getting really close, and finally, after 3 days of trying, I was able to pop into this nose grind and pop out and roll away. Honestly, I can't really explain the sense of relief after 3 days of trying this to finally roll away. I know it wasn't the cleanest, but I'll clean it up for an Instagram edit sometime. But I'm stoked that all the hard work like actually amounted to me rolling away. So if you did like this video and you want to see the full breakdown with all 11 techniques that I noticed P-Rod does with every frontside nose grind, I'll leave a link to get a free trial to my Patreon so you guys can check out the full breakdown. Now, as far as the reason I'm here at this gas station, because this took me so long, I'm pretty much filming and editing through the night to try and get these videos out on Friday like I promised. It's just so stupid. You can't control skateboarding. I was supposed to have the filming for this done Monday, Tuesday at the latest, and here it is Thursday night at 11 o'clock. And because I had no good lighting at home, I literally just drove to find some place that had lights. And here I am, just chilling at a Maverick gas station. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Make every day Friday, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.